Hello everyone, you're welcome to this week's Tech Tuesdays webinar on Enterprise Data Catalog 10.5 Overview. I'm Rinda, your host for today's webinar. Today we have Louis Noel and Devashish with us for this session. Louis comes with an extensive 17 years of experience in products and is responsible for ADC scanners. Devashish has 15 years of experience in data deliveries and product management and is responsible for ADC scanners. Before we start this webinar, here are some housekeeping tips. This webinar is for 1 hour, including the 15 minutes Q&A. You can post your queries in the Q&A box. Dial-in participants are muted for this webinar. The session is being recorded and will be available in the Informatica Support YouTube channel and the Success portal. The recording will be emailed to you as well. You can also put in your feedbacks and suggestions for this session in the post-webinar survey. The Tech Tuesdays webinar program is hosted within the Success portal. The Informatica Success portal is a microlearning platform offering free and unlimited learning to all registered users. This feature-rich platform was launched to help you learn and use Informatica products better. Here are a few important links that you can go over later that will help you in your product adoption journey with Informatica. Over to you, Louis and Devashish. Thank you.
Thank you, Vrinda, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome on board for the webinar for ADC 10.5 overview session. My name is Devashish Sharma. I'm part of Informatica product management group for ADC. I have Louis Noel with me. He is also part of product management group for ADC. Our agenda for today is to cover the theme for 10.5 release in terms of the delivery or the features and the functionality which are coming in for 10.5. Also walk you through the change in architecture that we are coming up with 10.5 from moving away from a Hadoop-based technology stack to a non-Hadoop-based technology stack. So let us get started. Before we start, there's a disclaimer that we want to propose that we would do every possibility, we will invade every possibility to make sure that we deliver what we are talking around in this presentation. However, Informatica has a right to add or subtract anything without any prior notice to anyone from the upcoming release. That said, in the last year, 10.4.1 was the major release, and after that, every 2 months we have done releases in the form of CP and SP. We did in October, we did in January, and now we are in the March. We are coming up with a major release for 10.5, which is action-packed release. We will have a lot of changes that is coming in, and we'll see them in a moment from here. So in the 10.5 release, you would have 15 advanced scanners which are coming in. These are code-based scanners, BI, legacy, ETL scanners. So for those who are not very familiar with advanced scanner capability, this is basically the capability that has come to Informatica post the acquisition of a Polish organization called Compact BI. Now we have the capability in ETL, legacy, BI, and advanced deep dive capability into all of these, which makes the scanner landscape for Informatica more complete than any other organization today. When I'm saying advanced scanner capability, that also means that if we take in, for instance, Oracle, we can do a scan inside the stored procedures, scripts, any external files, parameter files, and whatnot to bring that metadata from there and create a lineage which is more complete and more sense-making from the user perspective, and then you would bring more trust to the data that you're looking at. From the OOTB standard scanner perspective, we are coming up with enhancements in our Exxon scanner, where facets would get added. The SL3 file system is being enhanced from scalability standpoint. And then there are enhanced snowflake scanner as well. So all these scanners were already there, and there are a lot of changes which are coming in to make these scanners more uh, uh, capable to bring better lineage and metadata. SAP HANA was something which was preview before, and in this release it's going to be GA and would be available to go live for any users who are using SAP HANA. There are similarity discovery changes that are coming in which are powered by Claire, which is our artificial intelligence engine. There are a lot of user experience changes coming in, and then we will come up with data flow analytics preview as well, and this is something which we'll do a double click on in a while. There are a lot of performance and security enhancement changes which are coming in, and most importantly, the non-Hadoop platform. So this is something that we will talk in details around. What is that which is changing from a Hadoop to non-Hadoop perspective? How does that impact our existing customers? What is the change in architecture? What is the next steps from here? Is there any support mechanism and everything around it, so that all of our customers know what we are doing, why we are doing, and how that they can upgrade themselves, and is that seamless. Coming to the architecture changes for 10.5, we are moving away from Hadoop and H based technology stack to MongoDB and Nomad based technology stack. And the reason why we are doing these changes is that the SDP version that we were using is gonna get sunset by the end of this year, and we are seeing this as an opportunity to come out of our Hadoop technology stack to a more market relevant, uptrending MongoDB and Nomad technology stack. What does that essentially mean is that all of our customers who are on an older technology stack, which is like before 10.5, 10.4 and before, would have to migrate themselves to a newer technology stack, obviously because Hadoop would not be supported. And then if it is end of life, we would not be able to support Hadoop-based tech stack issues going forward. So that is not something which is going to happen this March. We still have 1 year to make sure that we plan more effectively. My request to you is if you are on on the path to get migrated to 10.5, it is the time that you start circling back with your architects, with your infrastructure guys, and with your business stakeholders to find a most feasible time for you to plan an upgrade. If you are on a lower version than 10.4, then you might would have to do a 2-hop uh, upgrade. You might would have to first upgrade to 10.4 1x series and then get migrated to 10.5. We'll talk around it in a while as well. What do we expect? Is there any additional hardware cost? Not at all. So whatever is your current setup on the internal cluster, the same setup would be used for the Nomad and MongoDB based deployment. However, if you are an external cluster, you might want to re-provision your Hadoop cluster for something in your organization for which you're using, or you might want to sunset that because and procure another cluster for embedded deployment. Going forward, we would not have two flavors of deployment like we had before, external cluster deployment and internal cluster deployment. Going forward, we would just have internal cluster deployment that would be based on MongoDB and Nomad. We have seen some performance enhancements uh, on our new technology stack or new architecture, but then our promise to all of our customers is that you would not see a functional loss, you will not see a performance loss, is our promise. You would see some enhancements, but that's not something we are vouching for. What we are vouching for is that we'll make sure that you do not get a decline in your performance post the upgrade. We have done every possible coding to make sure that the upgrade is as seamless as possible in terms of the upgrade of your platform and in terms of content management, content migration, and upgrade from seamless perspective. So what we have done is we have automated our upgrade process, which is just one installer which you would have to run and keep following the steps, which would be documented, and then you would have you just need to follow the steps in the form of giving that parameters or any uh, any disclaimers or acceptance or terms and conditions, whatever the installer would ask for. You just would have to keep selecting them and moving forward for the upgrade process. The uh, all the other steps which we'll talk in a while, the upgrade steps we'll talk in a moment, but then everything else is being taken care by the installer. From the support standpoint, you would continue getting the Informatica support like you do today. You would get better EDC support for long-term perspective, because this is more relevant to industry. This is something which is trending and which will remain in trend for a while. You do not have to worry around any of the platform upgrades, patches, maintenance, housekeeping of Nomad and MongoDB based cluster. Informatica would take care of all of this, and we will keep providing you patches as and when we have it. Um, from the partner organizations providing us MongoDB and Nomad. In the upgrade process, like I said before, you essentially need to be on 10.4 X series. If you are on a version which is lower than 10.4, you might would have to first upgrade yourself to 10.4 and then plan an upgrade to 10.5. This is a process which is required for you to enjoy the automation upgrade process and automation migration process. So if you are on a lower version than 10.4, I think this is the time that you plan your upgrade to 10.4 in a quarter or so, so that you are ready to get upgraded to 10.5 towards the end of this year. I would not recommend you to do upgrades at the last moment next year, February, March timeframe, because that you would run yourself very thin. God forbid you hit any roadblock or bottlenecks that will impact you from getting yourself out of support from the from since the technology stack is going to be end of life. So moving on from in the upgrade process, typically these are the major highlights of the upgrade process. You first take a backup of the content, then your Hadoop cluster would get cleaned up, your platform would get upgraded. Once the platform is upgraded, a new ICS service will get deployed. ICS stands for Informatica Cluster Service. So once that ICS service is deployed, your backup content is now restored, upgraded, and reindexed for you at your disposal. There are tons of questions asked by our internal stakeholders, product specialists, pre-sales teams, uh, customers, partners. We have for the most common ones, we have created them as a FAQ for your reference. Should you have a question which you don't find in the listed FAQ, please reach out to us and we would be happy to answer any of those questions. In terms of the user experience enhancement changes which are coming in, there are a lot of changes on the search result page. You will see a redesign on the search bar. The pre-filter uh, is coming in, and then you have the advanced information panel, which is additional information panel, which is coming in as well. This will allow you to get some information about the asset without opening the asset. You just mouse move, select any of the asset, and then you will see that additional information on the right hand side of it. The filter segment is also refined for you to make your searches more advanced in nature. You can refine your searches and make sure that you do not get into multi-page result where you'll have to keep looking into multiple pages to look for the asset you're looking for. There are other changes as well, like we talked about a pre-filter which is replaced by a search tab. Then you have uh, then you have more results, search results coming in, which is more make it more visible from the asset type perspective. You have, if it is a table, a workbook, or worksheet, you'll get that kind of information up front. Then there is a search cancellation option. We talked about additional information. You have it. If you do not want to see this additional information panel, you have all the access to show or unhide these details as and when you need. You can save the search. The filter panel is simplified. The breadcrumbs changes, and a lot of other changes have come up as well in the search panel. From the notification panel perspective, there are changes in the way you can filter the notification you're looking for based on the asset name, uh, time period, or the type of change. It can be source, collaboration, enrichment kind of change. You can search based on filter your summary, change summary in this fashion, and then you can download into a CSV file. There are tons of walkthrough changes which are coming in. You can browse them through help menu and then walk through and then look for all the walkthrough updates that we have. Also, you can do a mouse over and on the tabs or the links that you have on the UI, and will give you information around or the capability of that specific section, which will allow you to double click on it and understand what is that, what is the feature of this particular segment. And then for somebody who is looking it for the first time, or somebody who is not very familiar with EDC tool, it brings a lot of value for that specific user. There are other features as well, which are coming in, like similarity computation. So now if you see that there are, user is allowed to logically group the resources for similarity computation. It improves the performance and accuracy, of course, and then it goes to the scanner framework and the lifecycle level. It goes to till the details of create, edit, delete, purge kind of in terms of computing the similarities. It reduces the false positive because it would be able to identify based on types, the data types. And if, for instance, it is considerate to compare between timestamp and pure number. Also, it is based on features which is enabled. So, say for example, you can configure a resource group for features against similarity. And then after we 10.5 is coming up with support for S3 storage. That's something from scalability standpoint. Now here I'll take a pause and would invite Louis Noel to take us through the architecture slides and differentiation between 10.4.1 and 10.5, so that it is easier for everyone to understand what is changing, what are the components which are changing, and what is replaced by which component, followed by a walkthrough of the preview feature, which is data flow analytics. That is something is crucial for a huge installation where you have thousands of mappings developed by multiple developers over multiple years, and it becomes excessively difficult for somebody who want to do impact analysis, because it is a typical problem that one mapping would end up being used by multiple other mappings or maplets, and then that makes it really complex for somebody to understand. So I'll stop here and would invite Louis Noel to take us through the next slides. Louis Noel, over to you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Devashish. Hi, everyone. So I will go through the following slides talking about the new architecture, and then following up with the new feature, the data flow analytics. So first of all, the new architecture. As Devashish mentioned, we are replacing the Hadoop stack that we were relying on in EDC prior to version 10.5. This Hadoop stack, we were leveraging the compute capabilities, the distributed compute capabilities of the Hadoop cluster, as well as the columnar storage through HBase. Here in this case, you can see that in the backend of EDC, there's multiple stores, various stores that are allowing us to store your metadata, the metadata that comes from your system, and allows us to manipulate this metadata so that we can render it and allow your users to search through this metadata. So we have an equivalent for each one of those stores. The asset stores that was based on HBase now will be replaced by MongoDB. The graph technology that we were using is now replaced by MongoDB as well, and MongoDB will provide as well those capabilities. For all the search related capabilities, there's no change. We'll continue to rely on Solr for the enterprise data catalog, and data privacy management will continue to rely on Elasticsearch for its internal search. The event store that is used for the data asset analytics will continue to be on the database that you are providing as part of the model repository service. And then a few other changes where we stage the metadata before ingesting it into the catalog will also be replaced by MongoDB. The long-term storage for the content will be done through MongoDB GridFS. This is where it allows us to replay the ingestion of older execution of scanners in the catalog. The similarity store that we were using with Phoenix, we now on top of HBase will now be replaced by Postgres. And the configuration store that has all the configuration of your resources will remain in the MRS. Monitoring store will go on MongoDB for better performances. And finally, all the compute activities will now go through Nomad for EDC. So as before, we were using native applications on Yarn. Now we will leverage native application on Nomad, and data privacy management will leverage Spark on as a standalone service. So the architecture that we add in 10.4 were, as you can see, including the platform services, the model repository service, the analysis service for the business glossary, if you are not using Axon, the enterprise data catalog, and eventually the Informatica Hadoop service, which corresponds to the embedded cluster. So the embedded cluster was running on a set of machines, and where all the various services were deployed, HDFS, Yarn, etc. And we were continuing to rely on the data integration service infrastructure to perform the profiling on the source. So here the example that shows various sources coming from databases, applications, and also data lake if you are also using Hadoop data lakes. So the main changes is happening, as mentioned, on this embedded cluster. So in 10.5, this cluster is removed, and we are replacing it with the new architecture, including MongoDB and Nomad and the related services. So as you can see now, we are deploying not only Zookeeper and Solar, but we add also MongoDB, Nomad, and PostgreSQL. The scanners will be run through the Nomad and distributed across the various nodes of your cluster using Nomad. For the scanner process, it remains pretty much the same. The main difference that you will basically see is that as you were administering the enterprise data catalog scanner execution, often you were guided through accessing the Hadoop cluster UIs, like the Yarn Resource Manager UI, etc. So the biggest change is that now when you are monitoring what's happening, the external link that sends you to the log files will actually send you to Nomad UI instead of the Yarn Resource Manager UI. But pretty much the execution of the backend will remain the same. We are still running our scanner, staging the data into this time MongoDB, pushing it to the catalog through the ingestion service that is executed as native code now instead of Spark, and so forth. Continuing on the change of architecture, we of course have been looking at the importance of the enterprise readiness for the catalog, making sure that we have high standards for not only performances and functionality, but also all the other aspects that are required for you and for your organization to run the enterprise data catalog within your premise. So in terms of security, while we had in the past used Kerberos for enforcing authentication on each of the services, which was the de facto security layer in Hadoop, we have implemented a easier to use authentication, which is the mutual TLS authentication through SSL certificates. That means that in order to access the various UIs that are made available for monitoring the services, etc., a user will have to have access to a particular certificate, and that will act as the key tab that were used previously. All the services, the Nomad UI, the MongoDB, and Solar will act this way and require to authenticate with a specific certificate. So that means that all the communication intra-services will happen through will be encrypted via TLS, of course. And then finally, as 10.5 also include at the platform level announcements and increase of the security through the higher encryption mechanism AES 256 instead of AES 128, you are also automatically benefiting from those announcements in terms of security. The second aspect is the high availability. So in the previous architecture, EDC was relying heavily on the availability of Ambari. Ambari was the tool that was used to deploy all the Hadoop services on the backend, but Ambari itself was not highly available. That was one of the limitations of Ambari. Now with this new architecture, there is no more such limitation, and the services, the Informatica cluster service manages the various cluster nodes independently, so that we continue to have SLAs that will not depend on a specific service. So each of the components, MongoDB, Nomad, and so forth, will be deployed in high availability mode across the nodes that you are providing, as long as you are providing more than one node on the cluster, for the cluster, of course. As for the disaster recovery, there's been announcements now made to the backup capabilities. So in order to be able to replicate the state of your metadata and the state of your catalog in your disaster recovery, we have improved the backup utilities. So now you can perform hot backups to perform your backups in a more regular fashion, and transfer those backups and restore on your disaster recovery site. You can also now individually backup each stores on the backend, the MongoDB store, the state store, etc., so that those backup can actually be achieved in parallel for better performances. Finally, in terms of sizing, we continue to, like Devashish said, our primary focus was to ensure that we had functional parity between version pre-10.4, pre-10.5 and 10.5. So there's no prerequisites reduction for the moment. We will continue to work on the performance improvements to see if in the coming release we can provide better and reduce prerequisites for your environments. Let's now have a look at data flow analytics. So in 10.5, we are continuing on improving the AI capabilities that we are providing as part of the CLAIRE initiative that we have at Informatica. And with data flow analytics, we are attempting to look at a problem that we have seen and heard from many customers. You have been developing and managing throughout your information system lifecycle many different implementation of data integration patterns. There's been a lot of implementation of mappings by various teams over like many years. There are customers, Informatica customers for more than 20 years now, and this quickly leads to very difficult environments to manage because of the complexity of the mappings, the superposition of various type of processing that has been created and sometimes not factorized in a very conscious way. So what we see is that those aspects are also slowing down the evolution of the platform. If we have to modernize certain systems, if we have to make sure that we can move forward with new technologies, etc., it's here slowing down this process. Maintaining the system is very hard because you need to retain resources that have high knowledge of the specific implementation that has been done, and it's very costly to maintain those kind of systems. So we are looking at those challenges, and with that, attempting to address those challenges through the analysis of your data integration patterns. So, and with this first, this initial version of the data flow analytics, We will look especially at the Power Center repository and convert each and every mappings and workflows that you have in your environment as graphs and identify common graph patterns through machine learning and artificial intelligence to identify common patterns that can be used for improving the maintenance of your data integration services. Here, we will be able to surface similar mappings, we will be able to surface duplicate mappings, reusable transformations, or a set of transformations that can be put together and reused across multiple processing. That will allow you to reduce the errors that you are seeing in your environments, reducing the customization or the custom development that exists in your organization, will allow you to more efficiently manage your environment on the long run. And of course, by default, reducing costs, operational cost of managing those environments. So with the data flow analytics, what we will be seeing in this first version is a dashboard like this. There will be for each of the repository that you have in your organization. And for now, it's going to be Power Center first. We will have an analysis of each of those repositories that provide you what can be found as similar in terms of mappings, what are duplicates, what are potential maplets that can be created, what are potential reusable transformation. So here in the bottom, each of those boxes are representing one repository. Now you can, for each of this repository, drill down into the different categories, similar mappings, duplicate mappings, maplets, etc., and review the groups of processing mappings here in this case that will potentially can be refactored and make the management easier. So something very, very intuitive that will allow you to identify certain elements that can be refactored and made available. So here you will be able to see a quick graph of the actual mappings or the reusable transformations that can be created, or the maplets that can be created in order to simplify the implementation of your processings. This concludes the presentation, and we'll open up for questions. Thank you.
Hello everyone. If you have any questions for the presenters, please post them in the Q&A box. Hey, Louis or Devashish, we have one question. Any new scanners coming with 10.5 by default and monitoring tool to manage and view license for number of resources and all?
Hi, yes, so as new scanners, we will see Talent DI that will be coming up, as well as ODI. That will be two new scanners as part of the advanced scanners. We will also see the SAP for AnaDB becoming generally available scanner. that will be also available in 10.5.
Thank you, Louis. Another question, how will internal cluster migration work?
So the internal cluster migration will work very similarly to what you may have observed pre 10.5. We will ask the administrator to take necessary backups prior to a migration. Once the upgrade starts, we upgrade the binaries, we clean up the clusters that you have been providing to run the cluster services, and then redeploy the new services that are required, as we listed in the presentation, MongoDB, Solar, etc. Once those services are restored, there will be a migration utility to run on the backup that you have taken, and you will be able to restore the contents directly into the new architecture. That will be the overall migration process. So a few additional steps from what was done in during upgrades from prior version to 10.4.1. And then here it will be very, very similar to what you have seen in the past.
Okay, thank you, Louis. Another question, could you please give details about the effects on performance on the new infrastructure? Can you share the performance improvements compared to the previous architecture?
So far, the performance tests that we are looking at are good. Like we also mentioned, the goal for us now is to look at feature parity, so we ensure that there's no regression, etc. However, as you mentioned, we see some improvement in certain areas, and in the coming release post 10.5, we will continue to look at those improvements. When we get closer to the release, we will be able to share more accurate results. As for the moment, there's still some areas that we are finalizing completely. So as soon as we have those final numbers, we will share that. Feel free to reach out to to your customer success management team, and we'll arrange some communications towards the performance numbers.
Thank you, Louis. Another question, on Hadoop cluster, we are able to use Ambari console for administration. Is there anything similar available for Mongo or Nomad setup?
So for Nomad offers a similar UI as the resource manager that you have been probably connecting to look at the jobs that are running, the logs, accessing the logs that are available on the cluster. So Nomad will provide this kind of feature. There's no other UIs that will be open for consumption. There's no equivalent to Ambari, which was there to manage the cluster. Here, the cluster will be entirely managed by the Informatica cluster service that runs in the administration console. So from the administration console, you will be able to stop and start the services, make any changes to the configuration as needed.
Thank you, Louis. Another question. Our EDC is bundled with IDQ 10.4 and Axon 6.3. Do IDQ and Axon need upgrades to be compatible with EDC 10.5?
So if we will continue to support older version of the Axon and IDQ. If IDQ is deployed on the same environment of EDC, obviously you will have also to either split your IDQ installation and the EDC installation, and if you want to keep IDQ on 10.4. Otherwise, you will have to upgrade as well IDQ at the same time of EDC.
Thank you, Louis. Next question. Could you please give details about the effects on performance for new infrastructure? Can you share the performance improvements compared to the previous architecture?
Yeah, I think we
answered this. Yeah.
Correct.
This question. And the question, EDC sizing is add infrastructure or metadata processing?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
EDC sizing is add infrastructure metadata processing. It's from Sang Take.
So we will have the similar deployment where we were dedicating a server for the catalog service, one server for the profiling, jobs, etc., and then the cluster nodes that are there to provide the feature that are for the catalog itself, which is storing the metadata, holding the knowledge graph, and providing the search capabilities that you need to be able to access and search anything through the UI.
Thank you, Louis. Next question. This EDC 10.5 can be best fit in IaaS or on-prem based on changes in architecture?
So EDC can be deployed both on cloud and on-prem, the same way it was before. You will be able to continue to do that. So today we do support deployment on all the major 3 cloud vendors like AWS, Azure, or GCP. We'll continue to support them as well in 10.5.
Thank you, Louis. Another question. Can you use IICS MCT in Analyzer?
Not at the moment. The take preview feature for the data flow analysis will be only for Power Center. We will expand the number of sources for in the future, but for now, in 10.5, it's going to be only Power Center.
Thank you, Louis. Next question. An upgrade guide will be published or is it available?
It will be published the same moment where we make the release generally available.
Okay, thank you. Another question, will there be Power BI scanner enhancements for external lineage and column level metadata?
So these announcements will come post 10.5. We are working actively with Microsoft to get necessary updates to the APIs that we are accessing to get that metadata. So you will see an update shortly after 10.5 with that regards.
Thank you. Louis, next question. By separate license, are those chargeable items or do we simply request them through GCS?
I imagine that with regard to the advanced scanners, so to answer some of the questions that we have seen for the advanced scanners are accessible through the acquisition of additional license. Those licenses are by advanced scanner type. And yes, please do contact your customer support to get more information, or through your sales channel as well to get more information.
Thank you, Louis. Next question. In 10.4, we are able to start ICS without sudo and redeploying Hadoop code. Will be the same available in 10.5?
Yes, so sudo requirements will be still there for the deployment phase of the services. Once this is done, you can revoke those sudo access, and you will be able to start the ICS service without requiring the sudo access.
Thank you, Louis. Next question. What was the main key decision for moving the compute or orchestration to Nomad?
We explored various aspects. Nomad was the easiest to implement, and was providing all the requirements that we had to be able to run various type of loads and orchestrate those loads across multiple nodes. So we use Nomad, and of course the security layer that is available also on Nomad is one of the key decisions. So as we are implementing mutual TLS authentication, that's something that we were also looking at in terms of criteria for this decision.
Thank you, Louis. Next question. How does the performance of the MongoDB architecture compare with the previous Hadoop? Is it faster?
As mentioned earlier, so the performances, we see performance numbers that are looking good. We are not expecting decrease of the requirements that we will have for the deployment of EDC. However, in the coming version, post 10.5, you will surely expect performance increase, and then we'll look into that in more detail and provide you some guidance on what we can find and what we can see as we get closer to those releases.
Thank you. Next question. Has the stability and performance improved with the new architecture?
Similar answer, yes. Definitely, we see some improvement in performances, and like I said, it's at various level. For the stability, we of course are testing on the long run, so we have clusters that are running for a long time, and we see if everything goes fine on those clusters. What I can say as well is that, as I mentioned, now there's no single point of failure. So if you shut down one of the node of your cluster, then you will continue to be able to run your services and provide services to your users. So stability is improved in that sense as well, as there is no single point of failure.
Thank you. Another question, will customers get any extra help to migrate to 10.5 given the timescales and inconvenience?
So we, of course, all the Informatica team is with you. Feel free to reach out to your support contacts. Raise the case when you start doing your upgrade. Please do let us know, and we will make sure that we are with you on those upgrades. However, if you need to have like a presence, somebody who will be able to perform the upgrade with you, you can either work with partners that are already today testing the upgrade on their side. You can also reach out to the professional services from Informatica that will be also able to assist you for the upgrade.
Thank you. Another question, is there an additional licensing fee for the DFA product?
No, DFA comes with no additional cost.
Thank you. Another question, Zookeeper or SOLR has been replaced by Smart Search in MDM. Any plans to do so in EDC?
At the moment, we will continue to use Zookeeper and Solar for the search capability for EDC. No plan on changing that at the moment.
Thank you. Another question, can you speak more on the migration process from 10.4.1 to 10.5?
So similarly, the migration will be to take backups of your current content of the catalog. We will have the process to clean up the cluster nodes that you have provided already. Once those are cleaned up, then you will perform the upgrade naturally on the Informatica node and deploy the new services and redeploy the new the older backup that you have. There will be a migration utility that will help you do that. And once you have restored the backup, you will see your metadata available within the catalog.
Thank you. Another question: when is Spark and Scala scanners coming?
That will be later in the year. We are exploring for now initially capabilities to Spark notebooks as part of, for instance, the Databricks notebooks, and we'll in the future extend that capability. But look for something towards later on the second half of the year.
Sure. Thank you, Louis. Next question. 7.9.
Yes, Red Hat 7.9 will be certified, as well as Red Hat 8.3. So you will be able to deploy on newer version of Red Hat. That is the goal, actually, to move away from the Hadoop infrastructure. We will be able to support faster, newer release of Red Hat. So in the past, many of you have had security concern, and it was coming from your security team, where you had to upgrade very quickly your and in a timely manner your operating systems. We will better keep up with those versions and be able to provide support more quickly. So hopefully that will help you in maintaining the services for ADC. And I see a question coming. 10.5 will also support SUSE Linux as well. We'll continue to support SUSE 12 and the latest service pack.
Louis, looks like we have a lot of questions. Due to time constraints, can we choose the ones that that can be answered within our scope of time? Could we prioritize that, Louis?
Okay, let me browse through. So one question about the new scanners. The new scanners for Talent DI, ODI will require a license. That's correct, because those are advanced scanners. Is it necessary to obtain a new license file for 10.5? The answer is yes, because there will be some additional bits that will enable the new service. There's no additional cost to get access to that license bit, but you will have to request the license to your GCS contact. When is 10.5 ready for download? The release is planned for the end of March, so please look for the email that will announce the general availability of the release towards end of March. So there's a question about to profile S3 content, will we still require to use an external cluster to perform the profiling in Spark mode? Yes, that's correct. We will continue to require an additional an external cluster to perform Spark mode. The best route in the case of scanning S3 will be to use EMR an EMR cluster. It can be set up temporarily and then used for executing the profiling. So another question, does the Teradata scanner also include the ability to read bit scripting? So there's, as part of the advanced scanner for Teradata, you will be able to parse bit scripting and derive lineage from those scripts. So that's one. And I'll probably stop here as we are at the top of the hour. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Louis. Looks like we have answered most of the questions. There are still some more questions left to be answered. We'll definitely get back to you after this webinar. Thanks for joining. Due to time constraints, we might have to end this webcast now. Thanks for joining. Hope everyone is safe. See you. Thanks for Louis and Devashish for the awesome session. See you on our next Tech Tuesdays. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.